Welcome in. Today's guest is Christine Jarrett. She is a contemporary romance writer. She has a series of books that will be coming out. The first one is due to release on June 26th, and it is titled After the Flash. Her first original book was released um, at the beginning of this year, and that was a memoir, um, about a healing journey. And so let's just kind of get in there. And why don't you tell me about your books, your inspiration, kind of what sparked you into deciding to write?
Sure. Thanks for having me. My first book, And the Herd, is a codependency recovery memoir. And I was inspired to write it probably well over 20 years ago. Grew up in a very large family, had five brothers, two sisters. And some of my brothers struggled with addiction. And over the years, things had kind of gone a little haywire where my mom originally kind of was against all the drug and substance abuse and transitioned to actually being an enabler and, making demands on me and my sisters and just kind of all the chaos and dysfunction that went along with that. And after, decades of this going on, finally reaching my breaking point where it was affecting my marriage, being asked to, purchase cars and money, and it never ended, it never stopped. Um, so how I kind of came to my breaking point, how I sought help and kind of dug out of that dark hole I had gotten myself into, being the codependent of the enabler of the addicts, and my journey. And the title "And the Herd" comes from me and my sisters. We were all together. When my fourth child was born, and we were all just kind of sitting around all exhausted, and the TV had switched off from the kids show and it went into this documentary on elephant herds. And it was all the aunties, the sisters, they were all there helping each other, taking care of each other. And, the matriarch, who kind of ran things. So we kind of laughed and joked. We're like, oh my gosh, we're like an elephant herd. So then from that day forward, it was like, and the herd does this, and the herd does that. We go to a concert, we go to a restaurant. We went to Naranan together. So it was just, and the herd. So that was where the title came from.
And
Uh,
the cover too, right? Because it's elephants
yes,
on the cover. Yeah, okay.
I know. And that might not have been the best choice for a book cover because at book events I've been asked, oh, did you go to Africa? I'm like, no, it's kind of a metaphor for me and my sisters and, acting like an elephant herd.
Right. Well, and elephants, they travel in herds, and they have very close relationships with each other, and they're very intelligent creatures. So, I mean, I get it with, the
Yes.
subject of your book, and so I mean that makes sense to me.
Yes. So then I was working at the time. I'm an RN or was an RN. I retired after 37 years. And once I retired and I had that block of time, then, every day, I had already had much of the book written. So I just really needed to go back and fine tune it and ask several people, different people in the family, did I get this right and things like that. Um, so finished that up. I self-published it, and then I had all these other stories going in my head. And that was I had written one book, and I sent it off to the developmental editor. I got back 18 pages of notes. So I was like, oh my
Oh
gosh,
boy.
but I know I wanted to die because it was my first fictional piece, and I'm like, oh boy, I really suck at this. I got to go back to the drawing board. So. I had already started writing after The Flash, and I kind of had my wheels going on that. I was about halfway through it. And when you're halfway through a book and you're already thinking of the next one, I was kind of on that train. So I just, put that first book on the back burner and I wrote the trilogy. I actually have all three books written, and
Okay.
yeah, so the now my project is going back to book number one and fixing that debacle. It had dual timelines. She thought it would be better as a linear. She wanted me to change the point of view.
Mhm.
So there, it was a hot mess. So I'll be going back to the hot mess here in a couple of weeks.
Hey, I'm always saying, you gotta embrace the chaos and everything, because what else are you gonna do, right?
Yes, yes.
Uh, so how did with with your contemporary romance novels, how did those characters kind of first introduce themselves to you? How were they like, you need to write me down? Everybody kind of like for me, I had a dream. I dreamed up, my entire first book and and other people, they just kind of pop up in their head one day and start yelling at them,
Mm-hmm.
write me down.
Yes.
How did that work for you?
After the flash, the first spark I got of it is like I saw this, I don't know what it was, but it was like a commercial or something, a scene or picture, and it was of someone getting engaged at the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree, and I thought, wow, that would be a really good scene, and the photographer, and that was literally the first thing, and then like you said, dreams were coming to me, and I'm thinking, oh, that would be a good scene, and so. And I wake up in the morning, of course, I can't remember anything. I'm like, what was I thinking?
Right.
What was I dreaming? So I started taking notes in the notes app. Even in the dark, my husband's next to me sleeping. I'm whispering the scenes into my phone so I don't wake him up. And then I just started mapping them out and adding the characters. And it just kind of fell into place. And I'm a pantser. I don't really have a tight outline. The story just comes to me and
Right.
I'll write like for crazy number of days. And then all of a sudden I hit the wall and, I just need to take a break from it and then I'll come
Mhm.
back and, something will spark. So I really don't have a beginning, middle, and end in mind when I'm writing. I kind of come up, and work through it as I'm writing.
Right. Uh, was there any specific like setting or real life event? Um, Obviously in your first book, it was, based on, facts and reality that you have lived through. But with your contemporary romance novels, was there any, settings or real life events that you used and kind of shaped, into your story?
Yeah, I would say the characters, they're definitely all fictional. Maybe some characteristics of them, some of the personality traits I've pulled from real people in my life. The places, absolutely. I used to go every or several winters down to the Rockefeller Christmas tree, and we'd go into New York City. It was about 40, 45 minutes from where we grew up. And then we moved to Jacksonville, Florida. So that is the second setting in the story.
Okay.
And Jacksonville Beach, the downtown area, all the bridges downtown, the river. So that definitely is all fact based, and I've been to all the places that I do include in my story. And then the characters take a little jaunt over to Ireland, to Galway, and I've been lucky to have been there twice. So and definitely all my places like that have worked into the story.
Nice. It's
Yeah.
nice that you have such a background. You've been able to travel and see all those different places, and then, you can more accurately depict them in your stories.
Yes.
So that's very fortunate. Um, was there a scene in your book that you had more difficulty writing than maybe any of the other scenes?
In my memoir, I cried through several of them. In my
Right.
contemporary romance, book one, I don't feel like I had any difficulty writing it, any scenes, same with book two, but book three kind of got me. There were several scenes I wrote that I was literally on the keyboard crying and writing.
Yeah, well, a lot of, especially with romance, because you deal with a lot of real emotions that you have probably experienced yourself. So I mean, that is kind of brought out and
Yeah.
makes you a little emotional, maybe crying and all those things. So I mean, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
And the first two books are female male romance, and the third book is male male.
Okay.
Tuck, who's the one of the female main character's best friends, Tucker Hansen. He is gay, and I have a son who's gay, and just in our conversations and how he's approached and how people treat him and, things that he had. So as I was writing some of his scenes, thinking of what if this was my son? And
Right.
so I think that's probably where so much of that emotion came from.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
Would you mind giving us a little piece of your book and reading some of it out loud?
I would love to. So this scene, the female main character, Ray, she is a photographer and she has suffered a devastating loss, and it's approximately 3 or 4 years later, and she has just thrown herself into work, her photography studio. And the subject of her recent photo shoot is Sean Fitzgerald, who is an Irish professional surfer, and he has kind of caught her eye. So let's see. As I near the water, I'm surprised to spot Sean already there, sitting in the sand, arms wrapped around his knees, watching the waves roll in. Hey, I call softly, but he doesn't stir. Another step closer and I catch it. He's humming. I tilt my head, straining to place the tune, and his smile tugs at my lips. He pulls out a wireless earbud and glances back. Oh, hey. Wait, are you humming Elvis? Can't help falling in love? The words bubble out with a laugh I can't quite contain. Sean's cheeks flush as he ducks his head. Caught me, you know me in a sappy love song. He presses both hands to his chest with mock drama. This one just gets me right here. Sean hops up to stand beside me, both of us facing the ocean. The surf's clean, good quality, he says, scanning the waves. I watch his profile as his eyes sweep the lineup, the sun catching in his hair, a smile tugging at his lips until the edge of his dimple shows. That dimple sneaks up on me every time. He points toward a kid near the pier who rides a wave, then cuts across two surfers like he owns it. Sean laughs low and easy. We don't need a kook like that messing up the shoot. He glances at me with the grin widening. Then again, might make for some entertaining gestures. Something in the way he's smiling, so unguarded, so alive, makes it hard to look away. The crew begins to arrive, carefully setting up their equipment in the sand. Sean changes into board shorts that cling just right, effortless, like he was made for this backdrop. The offshore wind tussles his hair, turning the imperfection into perfection. Golden hour light washes over him, and I adjust the manual settings of my camera. Before he notices, I capture a quiet series of shots. Sean watching the team work, the pier and ocean stretching behind him, surfers weaving in and out, their wakes crossing and vanishing. Without meaning to, I whisper, perfect. Sean turns at the sound, catching me mid-frame. Through the lens, with that look in his eyes, he's even better than perfect. There you
When
go.
you were originally writing that scene, did it kind of always sound like that in your head, or has the character in the scene kind of evolved for you since then?
Um, Well, it's funny because I did not do Sean's Irish brogue, his accents, but in my head when I'm writing it, it's all that Irish. I can't even do it. But
Right.
yes, I kind of picture like the scene like a movie scene almost, playing out, and I kind
Hmm.
of capture it that way.
Now, are you self-published or traditionally published, kind of somewhere in between?
I'm self-published.
Okay. Um, when when you first self-published, when you first kind of hit that publish button, did you ever have one of those oops moments that after you publish, you realize that there's something wrong with the formatting? You are like, this isn't correct. I need to go back and change something really quick,
Yes. Yeah. Well, I went through it. There's been a few things I've kind of learned after the fact, but I think the funniest thing was I scoured through stuff, spell checking, and there was one major typo that one of my bookstagrammer friends pointed out, and it was my name was spelled incorrectly.
Ah, like, how does that happen?
I was I was so embarrassed, but we fixed it, and I don't know how many copies got out with my name spelled incorrectly, but they're out there.
My first book, When the Levee Breaks, was originally published in 2223. and it was picked up by a traditional publisher. And um, they'd made a lot of promises and stuff like that. And about 6 months afterwards, I ended up separating from them because they just weren't living up to their end of the deal. And so then I went ahead and self-published it, without even really going back into it, from what I had submitted to the publisher in the first place. And it was all double spaced. Like, when you write in college and you have to write papers in college, everything is double spaced in there. And that is exactly how it got
Oh gosh.
printed off. And so, you see how big that book is right now, but it was considerably larger than that because everything was double spaced.
Yes.
Um, I have actually just recently republished that, and that's why it's called remastered. Um, because when with the traditional publisher with first time authors, they prefer that there's less than 100,000 words, and that book is like 190,000 words or whatever. So I I went back over this last year and published it as it was, how I originally wrote it. And so but yeah, that first time of self-publishing, I did not go back in and reformat it before putting it on
Oh,
Amazon and publishing it. And of course, I don't know how many copies of that book are floating around out there, but are doubles based, and the formatting is horrible.
oh
Yeah.
gosh. Well, I discovered an app. I was really struggling with the formatting, and I watched YouTube video after YouTube video, and finally I found this program on there. It's called Readsy, and
Hmm.
that's who I've been using. And I'm telling you, the first time I put my book in there and exported it, it was like perfect. I'm like, thank you, Jesus.
Right. And I use now draft to digital, um, because technically you don't have to publish with them, but they do offer like the formatting and everything, and you can do it very quickly. And so I have gone moved to that now because
Okay.
it corrects all the formatting, and
Yes,
thank
yes.
goodness for that. uh, so that made my second book much easier to format and get it out there the way I wanted it to look.
Yeah.
And because with every place that you publish requires a different formatting type. Because like I publish on Barnes and Noble, and on Amazon, and then a few other places. And they all require a different formatting type and a
Hmm.
different heading type. And it could make you want to pull your hair out
Yes.
trying to go back and fix everything.
Yeah, oh, I totally get that. I went in the first one I did just on Amazon. So this time I spread my wings a little bit and also going on Ingram. And so, I was definitely used to the way KDP does it and was able to get everything up there. But Ingram took me probably 2 good weeks to get it in there. I kept getting this error message that was not listed anywhere. They said it's a customer service one. So it was
Right.
actually turned out to be a glitch on their back end.
Mm.
Once they cleared that, everything was fine. But even just doing the cover, trying to, I had a cover artist I hired, and she had to do two different formats, one for each
Yes.
outlet.
Yeah. And it can be so frustrating. It's
Hmm.
like, can't you all just accept the same thing so I don't have to
Yes,
redo this half a
yes,
dozen times?
totally.
Uh, so have you been doing a lot of book signing events, traveling around? Um,
Yes,
I
I
think
did.
you have something going on this week, don't you? Or this weekend?
I went to Nashville was my last big one, June 6th.
Okay.
So I did four up till that one, and those have been going well. I started very small. The first one was in Mount Dora, Florida, very small. I think there was only 8 or 9 authors there, but it was very intimate, in a French bistro for Valentine's Day. And It was a totally different format than any other event I've been to since.
Yeah.
But each one kind of getting bigger and bigger. And then the Savannah one was the biggest one I've been to yet. And that was a lot of fun. And a lot of friends and family came to that one. So that was great. And then I'm off now until I think August. I start up again and I'm kind of mixing it up this time. I'm not just doing book events, I'm actually doing some markets and small independent bookstores and things like that just to
Hmm.
change it up a little bit.
How has your impression been with like your local indie bookstores, as far as support um with with them accepting your books? Have you had a lot of success with that?
Not for the first book, but for this go around, yes, there's been definitely more interest. Like, memoir is such a niche thing and there's already so
Right.
small and, money's tight for them. So I totally get that. And plus, I didn't have it on Ingram. So
Hmm.
unless I was consigning, I couldn't get them in. But this time it's going much better. I already have two bookstores I'm going to be doing events with. So I think that's going to go much better this go around.
Good. Oh, kind of the reason I was asking that. So I am collaborating with Pretty Good Books for this podcast, and that's out of Ashtabula, Ohio. And every year they throw a book bash, and it has over 100 authors there.
Nice.
And it's a huge event, and it just keeps getting bigger every year. And it's so much fun. It's kind of right there on like that border by Erie, Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
And so if that is ever something that you would be interested in, they're going to be doing it next April, and they start taking applications. I think it's going to be in November.
Perfect.
And you are following me on Facebook and stuff, so I will post, when they're taking applications and they're, getting ready to set things off. But that is an option for you if
Oh,
you
yeah.
are ever interested in that. Like, because not everybody wants to travel. I'm not really sure where you're located at, but you were mentioning Nashville and Florida, so I'm kind of thinking, you don't mind traveling a little bit, which is
No,
which is
not at
good.
all. No, my husband travels a lot for work, so he gets a lot of points. So
Yes, take advantage of that.
you got that right.
But it's a fun event. They have newspapers there, and they do panels, and it's a lot of author networking
Yeah,
with the people. And some people do have more success than others when it comes to selling books there. But it's a good experience, especially with the networking, getting
definitely.
to
Yeah,
getting to
count
talk
me
to other
in.
authors. Yeah. So yes, if you are interested in that, I'll tag you in it the next time, when the when they're taking the applications, if you would be interested in you're kind of
Okay,
doing that.
perfect.
Good. And they will carry your books there. And you can mail them books, um, to sell, because like I said, it's an indie bookstore. So at that event, you can leave some books with them, and they will um they'll contact you, when they need more books, and they send the money to you and everything. And they're a really great indie bookstore.
No,
And
that's
so
fantastic.
yes, yes. Um, so kind of going back into your books a little bit. So I write romantic suspense, and so I am all about the tension building. Every page kind of has that tension of, pushing people forward to want to keep moving on. How is this going to end? How is this going to turn out? Um, with your writing, how do you kind of keep a reader leaning in and want to, keep reading your book until 3 o'clock in the morning?
That's a great question. It's interesting because I write this series is contemporary romance, and I think one of the things I really love about being an indie author is I don't have to stick to the formula that the publishers say. It doesn't just have to be that romantic arc. with the happily ever after. I can put in some tension, I can put in the suspense. And in all three of my books in the trilogy, I do have a suspense line in there. Book one, has a stalker. Book two, there's a little bit of an attack, so robbery. So um, I don't know, I like that kind of thrill, that little, oh, what's going to happen next. So
Yes.
I did kind of weave that in there between the romance and the friendship bonds and the healing bonds and all that stuff. It's a little mishmash of everything.
Good. Um, do you have like a non-negotiable writing habit?
I do not. I am, um, like I said, I just kind of write when I feel like it. And now that I'm retired, I can write, like my husband travels, I can write all day long and pound out thousands of words. So I will write, 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 write. And then I'll go days like I just spent, the last 5 days, with some of my kids and grandkids. I went down to Cocoa Beach, saw that the one of the rockets
Yeah.
launched. So, and I'll take a break and, do stuff like that. So it's not like I have to write X number of words a week. That's just
Right.
not me. I'm kind of a mood writer, I guess. You have mood readers, I'm a mood writer.
Right. Well, that makes sense. Well, you got your life and everything else. And, some people are, can sit down and write 100,000, word book and within a couple of weeks and, because they just kind of obsessively do it. And then you have other writers who take years because they get a life outside of
Yes.
their writing. Um, so yeah, um, I know like a lot of people I've talked to as far as like they're non-negotiable, like a lot of them have to have music on and but it can't have words to it.
Uh,
And like me, my non-negotiable is that I cannot be reading while I'm writing.
ah,
I can't, be reading other books while I'm writing so that I avoid, plagiarism on
yeah.
accident or kind of lose my idea, so that's my non-negotiable anyways.
Yeah. I hadn't really thought of it that way, but yeah, you're right, because I'm the same way. Like I won't be reading books when I'm writing.
Yeah.
That's because I'm like focusing on my story. But like
Hmm.
right now, I am not reading or not writing. So I just finished an audiobook and I'm getting ready to start this book.
Oh, well,
This coming on the
well,
plane with me. So I'm in my non-writing mode, so I'm reading.
well, I hope that you enjoy it. It was my first baby. Like I said, I released that in 2022, 2023, and yeah, she's my baby. She does have some pretty explicit scenes in it, so hopefully you do not get offended by those kinds of things
Yeah.
because I uh I keep it real.
Yeah.
And so some people appreciate that and some people do not. But I always give that warning of, it's explicit on, the romantic scenes and some of the violent scenes. But it's all very, very real. So
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy it.
I'm sure I will. It sounds great. I was just skimming through chapter one after it arrived last night, so I'm dying to dig into it.
Well, good. You'll have to let me know what you think.
I sure will.
Good or bad. I am not af I'm not afraid of criticism, so it's all good.
Yeah.
So outside of writing books, who are you? What do you have, what's your life without, outside of the writing?
Well, I've been married for over 35 years now, and I have 5 kids and 4 grandkids. So keep very busy, always traveling or going to see one of them, or they're here visiting us. Um, have friends from high school I still hang out with every couple years. We plan a trip together. I have a local group of friends. Of course, always get together with my sisters. So. I am loving retirement. I used to wake up at 4 o'clock every morning to, go to work, and we worked with a team over in India. So, we were logged on and working, long hours together and right before I retired. So My favorite part of retirement is I don't have to get dressed until about 10 o'clock.
I get that. On my days off, because I work in healthcare as well. So on my days off, I don't want to put anything on that I don't have to.
Hmm.
But I work overnights. Um, so my schedule is kind of all over the place.
Yes, oh, I feel that. I used to work labor and delivery for 4 years, work night shift, catching babies. So it's
Oh
like,
man,
yeah.
that would be hard, you know, sometimes, with everything that can go on in the labor and delivery area. So kudos to you for that,
Well,
being able to
thank you.
do
I
that,
loved it.
because
It was so
I,
great.
I would not be able to do that. That would be that was like the one area that I was like, nope, I can say with all confidence that I have zero interest working in labor and delivery.
That's funny. I loved it. I couldn't wait to get back then. You had to do like a year on med surg. So I did my year and I couldn't wait to get into labor and delivery. And then as we started moving around the country with my husband's work, and we started having kids, I transitioned to doing like case management, and that kind of led
Yeah,
into fraud, waste, and abuse work, and which is
right.
where I ended my career. But that's the beauty of being a nurse is, that allows you so many options of what kind of work you want to do. You can be in a facility, you can be in a doctor's office, you could, be behind, doing administrative type work. So
Yeah.
it was a great career.
So, gonna ask you about what kind of books you like to read. What was the last book that you read that you wish you had written?
Oh boy. I would probably say a Kristen Harmel book. I love her books. And Kristen Hanna. I love their book, both of their books. I'm I love historical fiction. And I love romance. Those are
Yes.
my two favorite genres, but I will read pretty much anything. I've read a few romantasy lately. Some other indie authors have been putting out some books, so trying to support the indie authors and reading their stories.
Yeah.
They're not my number one choice in drama, but I so enjoy the creativity that goes into creating those worlds and those characters that aren't fully human, and I find it fascinating.
And I agree with you there. I'm working on a paranormal romance, which is very much outside of my comfort zone. Um, I'm not even a high fantasy reader, and it's not that I don't like it, because like the stuff that becomes movies, I really enjoy. I I don't have the imagination that is proper for that world building and
Yeah.
properly seeing it the way, a way the author has created it. And so
Mhm.
I feel like it's just a disservice to reading their book, because I can't truly appreciate it, because I can't visualize it the way
Yeah.
that it probably should be. So I kind of just avoid reading high fantasy. But yeah, I'm kind of trying to explore that
Mhm.
area a little bit
Yeah.
more, um and opening up that door. So it's kind of, I'm creeping into it a little bit,
Yes.
maybe, and hopefully that will, inspire me to want to read high
Hmm.
fantasy. Maybe being able, if I can, train my brain to kind of wrap around how that world building goes on, maybe I can understand it better when I'm
Yeah.
reading it from, other people's books. So we'll see what happens.
Yes. I do. I have mad respect for those authors because I couldn't do it, but I just find
Right.
they're amazing to me.
Yes. Yes. Do you prefer physical books, e-reader, or audio? Obviously, you have the
I
physical.
Yeah, I do both because sometimes, like if I'm vacuuming the house, I'll put my audiobook in, if I'm tooling around or if I'm in the car driving, I'll put an audiobook on. But then sometimes I just prefer to just sit and read. If I can't sit and read, it's an audiobook. If I can sit and read, then I have the physical book. So I usually have two books going at once.
I have done that. but I try not to do it very often because then I get the story kind of screwed up. But I'm like, wait, did that happen? Which story did that happen in?
Yeah.
And then I start combining them both, just because that's how my brain works. And then I've created a whole new story that I'm not actually reading because it's a combination of both.
Yes, yes.
So, as far as like timeline goes, because you said you have the other two books written for your series, are you thinking like a yearly release, or how often are you thinking about releasing those books?
So I think I'm going to do the second release, maybe in like 4 to 6 months. I'll see how the sales are going for this. I still
Mhm.
need to get it with the editor. She's picking it up August 1st.
Okay.
So for book two, so book three still hasn't been edited, and I still have to do all the edits. So we'll see how that goes. That editing phase is a booger.
Yes, it is. That can take longer than actually
Yes.
writing the book, maybe like 2 to 3 to 10 times longer.
Yes, that and writing the blurb. I can't tell you how long it took me to write my blurbs.
I am horrible at blurbs. Like,
Yes.
if I could write this whole book, 200,000 words, I can get down, no big deal. You want me to summarize this? I don't know what the book is about to summarize it.
Yes. And then right behind that is the author bio.
And it's like, well, what should I include about myself in here? What shouldn't I
Yeah.
say? Yeah, it is all a very complex, and I don't think you know, people who don't write don't understand the complexity of such a little thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a huge thing to us, but it's such a little
I
thing when
know.
at the end of the day.
I know in the bio's like what, maybe 4 sentences, 5 sentences most. I'm like, how could it be that hard to write 5 sentences?
Right. It's marketing. How are you going about with that? Are you like utilizing TikTok and Instagram? You kind of focus on Facebook. How do you get the attention, draw people into your book?
I started on Facebook and Instagram, and Facebook really took off. And
Hmm.
then Instagram actually has now surpassed it. It's probably the genre switch, from the memoir to the
Yes.
romance. So it makes sense. And then I just a couple of weeks ago gone on TikTok. And it's so crazy just seeing the growth. Like it took forever to cross 1,000 followers on Facebook, and then Instagram finally got there, but then Instagram's now taken off and I'm over like 1,400 now. But TikTok, holy crow, I am like already almost approaching 1,000 in probably about a month.
Nice.
It's wild over there, but I don't know. It's a little scary. I don't know what I'm doing over there. I'm figuring it out though. Probably look like a fool.
I think we all feel like that at first anyways, and then we're just like, whatever.
Yes.
What kind of tools do you use? Do you use like Canva? Um, is there other kind of creative apps that you're using to create your content?
I do most of it on Canva. Every now and then, ChatGPT, if I'm in a time crunch and I can't spend my 6 hours on Canva doing some slides, I will
Right,
do something on ChatGPT just to get something posted, just for the
right.
consistency. Um, been taking a lot of my own pictures and videos just to try to use in the background of the reels and stuff. I use CapCut for my reels.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess that's pretty much it. I use Midjourney every now and then, which was recommended by an influencer who makes Canva stuff, and I had purchased some of her templates, and she had suggested Midjourney, so that helps with some of the background stuff.
What's that? Because I've actually never heard of that.
I guess it helps make images. You can kind of put in there what you want. They can describe the floral design that you want.
Is it
Um,
is it an AI program?
I
Is
think
that
so,
kind of
yeah.
okay? Okay. So before I let you go, could you let everybody know, where they can find you online? We've already kind of talked about that, but just kind of repeat all that again, as far as where they can find you online, and especially where they can find your books at.
Absolutely. I have a website, very easy. It's www.christinejarrettauthor.com. My books are available on Amazon. I just saw this morning they're already posted for pre-sale on Barnes& and Noble and Books A Million, so those places as well. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and Goodreads.
Yes, perfect. Well, I want to thank you for sitting down and talking with me today. And just kind of showing a little glimpse into your world. I appreciate all that. And I hope that we are able to sit down and talk again, maybe after, your whole series has been released and we can go over and kind of see how that's been going for you.
Absolutely. I would love that. And thank you for having me, Mariah.
Yes. Well, you have a good rest of your day, and I will chat with you again later.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.